Hi, folks. Welcome back to Just Ask George. David Wolf here with my friend George Lovato Jr. He's the president, the head dude of BH Capital.
Head dude, official title.
How are you doing, George?
I'm doing great. Hey, we're doing it on a different day today because we had busy schedules last week. I was in your hometown, as we talked about the week before. Everyone says hello.
Thank you.
Including
everyone.
The mayor.
The Windy City says hello.
Rahm Emanuel says, but you're here. Where's Dave?
Chicago's a beautiful town. George, it's always good to be back with you. Today we have the road ahead on JAG, Just Ask George, and thanks for joining us. George, tell us about, we were just talking about offline, we were talking about Steve Jobs, innovation, creativity, fine. You just got through a book. You're really perked up from this book. You're very inspired by that. But you wanted to do a segment on innovation and creativity. Talk to us from the banking perspective. Yeah.
We've been talking for how long now about the economy. We had a segment on Bernanke and how he's continually the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah.
And some of the tools that he's using in his toolbox, which he hasn't used them all yet. He's now currently talking about buying more financial instruments from more treasuries to blah 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 blah. He's really broadening his view of how to stabilize the economy. Okay, and the core of the issue is, in my mind, is we're not a country anymore that makes anything really. Most of the manufacturing is done every place else but here. You've heard my comments on Cuba that I think it is an absolutely ripe economic test bed to build capitalism. Maybe not necessarily democracy, but certainly capitalism. You have 500,000 ready, trained, educated workers down there out of work because the government has suddenly shrunk. It's 90 miles away from our shore. It has a deep water port. The maquiladora kind of approach to that, and what was effective in the 80s and 90s in terms of our relationship with Mexico and involving ourselves with further developing inexpensive labor. But after reading this biography, the authorized biography on Jobs, it makes you think about a couple things. One, about him, makes you feel tremendously creatively insufficient. And the second thing is that he made something. He manufactured something. We can talk about the strategic positioning of a closed end product like the Apple products, and that and certainly that has changed somewhat. It's not completely closed.
Yeah.
But certainly how they've vertically integrated, certainly how they've done all those things, but they still manufacture something. The funny thing is that it was originally all their products were manufactured in the Silicon Valley, state-of-the-art factories, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now all that's done basically offshore. An American innovation being manufactured offshore. And then someone will come back and they'll say, but that's part of the global economy. That's the development of the global economy. I'm going to go back to the core issue here. In order for the economy to rebound, in order for us to do what we expected to do and enjoyed what we were doing, the benefits of a bountiful economy, we've got to get back to making something.
Yeah.
The internet isn't an industry. It is a catalyst. It's a medium, certainly.
Yeah.
But we're sort of measuring that as America's main touchstone to developing business. Well, that may be true in terms of the development of other smaller businesses, but we've got a lot of unemployed people out there that have capacity and skill. And certainly they've been humbled by the fact that they've been unemployed for a long time. So maybe that $34 an hour mentality has gone away to some extent, and maybe it'll be more realistic at, say, $10 or $15 an hour. But we need to get back in the business of innovation, and through that innovation, just like what Apple did, and manufacturing, making the product here on shore.
In your mind, as you talk about making things, does that include the realm of non-tangibles, or are you really thinking about making stuff that's physical?
Widgets. Something you can push, pull, wrap at Christmas.
It's a physical item.
Yeah, manufacturing is, everyone say, well, with automation, there aren't that many people. Well, to a large extent, that's true.
The productivity factor, the increased productivity.
But still, the core of what made this country great. You're reading a book now.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And it's on...
the steam engine and electricity. So this power base that created really industrial America.
And then what happened from that is we got into the business of manufacturing stuff.
Yep. Making the arc lights, as one example. The arc lights, the incandescent, and all of those things.
And again, I think that we start talking about, there's too many people out of work. There's, okay, fine. Let's look at all those metrics, and I think we can conclude that there isn't enough business out there for people to be actively or gainfully employed. And a lot of what we do offshore are a lot of those jobs that should be here that could keep those people employed. And I'll go back to my soapbox for just 10 seconds, and that is the government has to use tax incentives as capital to stimulate business growth, and they have to use tax incentives to build factories and to get back to the business of manufacturing. Now, everyone will say, well, all the experts and the Harvard Business School people will say, well, but, when you're paying somebody $10 an hour as opposed to $10 a day, well, the reason that they're $10 a day is because there is a tremendous lack of automation in those environments, and we have automation. And so the fact is we may have less people in a lot of these factories than comparably there would be abroad because of automation.
Right.
However, it's some people that can be employed.
That's right. And maybe it's more factories with fewer people.
Exactly.
And a different split on more competition, perhaps.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's a great way to put it. So I think innovation needs to be coupled with execution.
Yeah.
And the execution of whatever that innovation is needs to be here and not be sent to Australia or Vietnam or Taiwan or something like that. And I think then we begin to look at the country's growth metrics differently. But the government has to utilize tax credits as capital.
Yep, you said that. And
when they do, things will change. I think we've got to stop the world in Washington inside the loop saying, well, tax incentives are only for the rich. No, we have to look at them from a perspective of developing business and developing jobs.
Love it. George Lovato. Great insights. Thank you, George. Always good.
My man.
It's The Road Ahead with George Lovato. Look for his work and the work of BH Capital, the merchant bank, at www.bhcapitalltd.com. And we'll see you next time on Just Ask George. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys.